Much of the working class, even though they're not in the same economic bracket as Trump, they support Trump's policies more. They think Trump cares more about the working class citizens of this country than Kamala Harris. For those that don't know, the Teamsters is the biggest union in the United States. I believe the biggest union. And for the first time in a long time, they are not endorsing a Democratic candidate for president. They almost always endorse the candidate that's running for the Democrats, and they've chosen not to. And they released their internal polling showing that 60% of their members that were polled supported Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. Now, this is particularly interesting because before Biden dropped out, internal polling released from the Teamsters Union suggested that Biden was preferred over Trump, which would seem to suggest, unless there's something hinky going on with the way they're doing this poll, it seems to suggest that a lot of these Teamsters preferred the default positions of Biden over Kamala Harris. OK says it's ironic that the head of the Teamsters aren't abiding by the will of their union. Isn't it, though? Why didn't the Teamsters Union leadership allow this? Well, no doubt because they support Democrats. To me, what this represents is a switch that's going on in the parties. I think that increasingly, even before the Donald Trump, I think that increasingly what you saw where the Democrats' support was coming from the very wealthy and the very poor. And the sort of middle and working class tended to be going more Republican. And I think that's exacerbated with the advent of MAGA. I think that the switch that we're seeing is more of a populist mindset coming through the Republican Party while Donald Trump's there. In other words, that sort of populism represents America first, wanting to work out for American workers, protect from outside people that would come in to take your jobs, protect from countries that would try to undercut U.S. jobs. Values that average everyday American working class people would believe, such as not having sexual education or sexual books in schools, not wanting women's sports to be erased or women's spaces to be erased by transgender folks, wanting to advocate for things like free speech. And a lot of these values also are shared by old school left-wingers, liberals like RFK. There's a reason that RFK has more of a home in the Republican under Donald Trump party than he does the Democrat party. The Democrat party represents more of an elitism. The ultra-wealthy, the intel agencies, the mainstream media, the neocons, the Bushes, the Cheneys, the Romneys. It's no surprise that Cheney came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Alberto Gonzalez, from the torture memos that the Democrats used to hate, came out, endorsed Kamala Harris. Now, does that mean that most unions support Trump? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying most working class people do. Or at least a bigger portion of the working class people that vote probably support Donald Trump. Union leadership or people that are specifically in unions might be more inclined to do what they've always done, traditionally vote Democrat. I could tell you that in 2016, I knew several people in the area I live in, overwhelmingly predominant Trump supporters. The people you'll find that aren't Trump supporters, a lot of them are people that work at the university. So professors, people that are students at the university, things like that. But the people that weren't Trump supporters, that were Democrat supporters in this area, the vast majority of them, again, the majority of those were people affiliated with the university in some way. But the vast majority of the ones that weren't, that supported Hillary Clinton, for example, or supported Biden over Trump, were union people. And they grew up union people, and unions vote Democrat. And so that's just the way it is. And I could tell you, particularly in this election, not many. I still know those that are like union, voting Democrat, screw Trump. But I've seen it start to switch. I've seen some union people that 2016 were like, no way voting for Trump. 2020, no way voting for Trump. It doesn't matter if you think Trump's an elitist. It is true, Trump's a billionaire and Harris isn't. But ironically, much of the working class, even though they're not in the same economic bracket as Trump, they support Trump's policies more. They think Trump cares more about the working class citizens of this country than Kamala Harris. It's insufficient to say, but Trump's got a bunch of money. That's why overwhelmingly, when the numbers have backed this up, the ultra-rich tend to vote Democrat. That's why you see Kamala Harris out there like, oh, so many CEOs are backing us and Goldman Sachs back us. So I'm seeing some of those people, and it makes sense. And I'm not saying all this stuff, you might disagree with some of this stuff. Tariffs. If you're in a union and, for example, you work in the automobile industry, tariffs are a good sign for you. Yeah, keep other countries' cars out of here. It might increase cost. That's one of the arguments that's happening. It'll increase costs for these products. But if you're a union member in this country, the idea is inevitably that will advantage you. It'll cause more people to want to build more stuff in this country. Keeping out labor competition in the form of immigration. That benefits union members in this country. Now, I haven't looked into it, but I've heard people say the Harris-Biden administration bailed out the Teamsters union to the tune of X millions of dollars. Maybe true. I don't know. I haven't deeply looked into it. But it's clear that that's not affecting the Teamsters' actual on-the-ground people if they're supporting Trump over Harris. And again, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean that you can't say, but the teachers' unions have came out and supported Harris. And this union came out and supported Harris. And this union came out and supported Harris. That's probably true. In general, I still think most unions who traditionally have been with the Democratic Party are going to publicly support the Democrats. But it's starting to signal a shift that you're seeing. That's what I see. Dick Cheney is a Harris supporter. He's being applauded by the Democrats, the same people that told you not 8 years ago that he was a war criminal that should be tried in The Hague, are celebrating his endorsement of Kamala Harris. The same people that told you that George Bush was the worst person ever. Bush lied, people died. Are now talking about people from his administration that are supporting Democrats like they're great people. If I would have told you that, if in 2008 I told you, listen, within 16 years, Cheney's going to be held up as this awesome example of people on the left pointing to him saying, see, he knows what he's talking about. You would have laughed at me. Thanks so much, Toke. $5 for Super Chat says Teamsters can't support Harris. They got UPS to pay for her health care 100%. Harris wants to take that away. We all love our health care. Well, it may be true. I haven't looked into it, but I feel you, Toke. I know she suggested getting rid of private health care. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And of course, the usual characters of the Hutchins. Well, look at all these unions. When I said, look, it signifies the shift in parties. Look at all these unions. Of course, most union people are still going to support the Democrats, but the shift is being signaled. And certainly, in general, the working class tends to be predominantly, polling showed this for years, the middle and working class is more likely to vote Republican. The people that are on the lower end of the economic scale and the very higher end tend to vote Democrat. So it would make sense, because union workers fall in that middle, then inevitably they would transition that way. And this is devastating for Kamala Harris. I still think Kamala Harris wins for various reasons. But this has to be raising some eyebrows in the DNC.